When I met Logan, it felt like I could finally exhale. He wasn't flashy or overly smooth. He was steady, thoughtful, the kind of man who opened doors without making a show of it. He listened, really listened, in a way no one else ever had. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen, loved, even. Naturally, I wanted him to meet my family, to see this part of my life I was finally proud of. My parents were always warm with me, at least on the surface. Supportive in the usual ways, holidays, birthdays, polite check-ins, but they had a soft spot for my younger sister, Chloe. She was the golden child, spoiled, dramatic, always needing the spotlight. And somehow she always got what she wanted. Still, I figured we're grown now. Maybe she's changed. Maybe we've all grown up a little. Dinner went surprisingly well, at first. Logan charmed them, just like I knew he would. My mom was all smiles. My dad laughed more than I'd seen him laugh in years. Even Chloe was nice. At least, that's how it started. But as the evening went on, I noticed little things. The way she leaned too close when Logan spoke, the extra giggles that didn't match the jokes, compliments that came with a twist. I brushed it off. She was just being Chloe, right? I kept telling myself I was overthinking it. Maybe I was just being protective, maybe even a little insecure. Logan didn't seem to notice anything off, and he kept reaching for my hand under the table like he always did. Calm, reassuring. I wanted to believe that what I saw was harmless. Just family being quirky, just Chloe being Chloe. But that little twist in my gut wouldn't leave me alone. After dinner, Chloe made a show of hugging Logan goodbye, longer than necessary, whispering something I couldn't hear that made him raise an eyebrow. I laughed it off, trying to be cool, trying not to let jealousy or paranoia creep in. I mean, come on, this was my sister. She wouldn't cross a line like that. Would she? Still, there was something in her smile that didn't sit right with me. Too proud, too satisfied. But Logan pulled me close when we got in the car, kissed the side of my head and said, "Your family's lovely." And just like that, I breathed again. Maybe I really was overreacting. The night ended quietly, peacefully. I went to bed feeling like I had finally started a new chapter in my life. A good one. One where I could stop looking over my shoulder. But what I didn't know was that Chloe wasn't smiling out of kindness. She was planning something. I just didn't see it yet. The next morning, I woke up still smiling. Logan had stayed over, and we made pancakes together in my tiny kitchen, dancing around each other like we'd done it 100 times before. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the life I've been waiting for. I even texted my mom a thank you for hosting, said how happy I was that everything went smoothly. She replied with a simple, "Of course, sweetheart." Nothing more. No emojis, no warmth. That should have been my first clue. Later that day, my parents called and asked if they could stop by, just the two of them. I didn't think much of it. Maybe they wanted to gush about Logan or talk wedding bells or something equally hopeful. I made tea, set out cookies. Smiled like someone who still believed their family would always root for them. But when they sat down, their faces were too calm, too rehearsed, and before I could even ask what was going on, my mother reached for my hand and said, "Haley, we need to talk about Logan." What came next? I wasn't ready for it, not even close. At first, I thought they were joking, or maybe I had heard wrong. I even laughed a little nervously, waiting for my mom to crack a smile and say something like, "Relax, sweetie, we're just messing with you." But no one laughed, not even close. My dad sat there stiffly, like he didn't want to be part of this, and my mom, she looked at me with that gentle, patronizing look she always used when she thought I was being too sensitive. "We just think it's for the best," she said, her voice syrupy, careful. I blinked at them. "What exactly are you saying?" I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. My mother squeezed my hand, as if softening the blow, and said, "We think you should end things with Logan." Just like that. No build-up, no real explanation. Just this cold, clinical suggestion to break up with the first man who had ever made me feel safe, loved, real. I felt like the ground had opened beneath me. My stomach dropped. My heart slammed against my chest. I laughed again, but it came out all wrong, sharp, bitter. Why? I asked, almost daring them to say it. I watched them squirm. My dad suddenly became very interested in his cup of tea. My mother looked away, and then finally, after too much silence, she spoke. You need to end things, Haley. Chloe deserves someone like him much more than you do. I sat there frozen, wondering what hurt more, the betrayal or the fact that they didn't even try to pretend otherwise. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, to ask if they had lost their minds. But instead, I sat there, numb. I think part of me was still waiting to wake up from it all. My own parents, the people who were supposed to love me the most, were handing me over like some worn-out toy Chloe had suddenly decided she wanted. And the worst part? They said it so calmly, like they were doing the reasonable thing, like I was the selfish one for standing in her way. All I could think was, how many times does she get to take from me before someone says no? Growing up, Chloe got everything. The bigger room, the new car, the extra attention. I learned early on how to shrink myself, how to make peace in chaos. But this wasn't about a bedroom or a birthday party. This was about my heart, my future. And they were willing to sacrifice it for her happiness without even blinking. It felt like every childhood wound had just been ripped wide open again. I stared at them, my voice shaky but steady enough to get the words out. Are you actually asking me to give my boyfriend to my sister? My mom didn't answer right away. Instead, she said, Chloe's had a rough time lately, and Logan, he could be really good for her. You've always been strong, Haley. You'll be fine. I didn't respond. I just stood up, walked them to the door, and closed it behind them. My hands were trembling, but my mind, it was already shifting. This time, I wasn't going to walk away quietly. I stood by the door for a long time after they left, trying to process what had just happened. The silence in my apartment felt louder than anything they'd said. I replayed it all. My mother's voice, my father's silence, the sheer audacity of their request. And beneath the hurt, something new started to rise. Not rage exactly, not yet, but something sharper than grief, something colder than shock. They really meant it. They really thought I'd just hand him over. I wanted to call Logan immediately, to hear his voice, to remind myself this was real and not some twisted dream. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed, letting every bitter memory from my childhood wash over me. Every time Chloe threw a tantrum and got what she wanted. Every time I was told to be the bigger person. Every time I swallowed my pride so she could shine. It was a pattern, and I'd lived inside it for far too long. This time, I wouldn't be the quiet sister. I wouldn't be the one who let go. I finally picked up the phone, not to cry, not to plead, but to tell Logan everything, every word, every look. And as I spoke, I heard his voice break, not in fear, but in disbelief. They said what? He whispered. And right there, in that moment, I knew. We weren't just going to survive this. We were going to turn it into something else entirely. A plan was already forming. And this time, Chloe wouldn't even see it coming. I didn't shed another tear after that phone call. Something inside me had clicked, like a switch had flipped. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to fix things. I wasn't trying to make peace, or keep the family together, or be the bigger person. No. I was done shrinking, done playing the part they always wrote for me. And when Logan said, let's show them exactly who they're dealing with, I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. We were in this together now. I told my parents I'd thought about what they said. I kept my voice soft, shaky, just enough to make it believable. You were right, I told them. Logan deserves someone who fits better into the family. My mom exhaled like she'd won something. My dad gave me that sad, approving nod I'd seen my whole life. They actually bought it. They believed I was stepping aside. Chloe didn't waste a minute. Within days, she was texting him, tagging him in flirty memes, sending those selfies she always claimed were just for fun. Logan played his part perfectly. Polite, distant, just curious enough to keep her hooked. We kept our communication quiet. Burner app, fake contact name, the whole thing. And every night, we'd debrief. Laugh sometimes, rage sometimes. But most of all, we planned. We knew Chloe wouldn't stop until she thought she'd won. And the moment she let her guard down, that would be our cue. She thought she was playing a game. What she didn't know was, so were we. The first time I saw one of Chloe's messages, I almost laughed. It was some overfiltered selfie with the caption, "Guess who's thinking about you?" If it hadn't been so pathetic, it might have actually hurt. But instead, it just confirmed everything I already knew. This wasn't about love. It was about possession. About winning. Chloe didn't want Logan because she saw him. She wanted him because he was mine. That was her favorite kind of trophy. The stolen kind. Logan handled it like a pro. He'd reply hours later, always just enough to keep her guessing. "Oh, hey, didn't see this earlier," or "Hope everything's good." Nothing romantic, nothing overt, just vague and warm enough to leave the door open. Meanwhile, I told my family I was focusing on healing, on moving forward. They all praised me for being so mature. Even Chloe, with that fake sympathy in her voice, told me I'd find someone eventually. It was almost funny, watching them comfort me while plotting behind my back. Every night, Logan and I would lie in bed and go over every move, every text, every breadcrumb. It felt like we were choreographing a performance, one where the final act would shatter the illusion they had worked so hard to build. But the best part? I wasn't pretending to be strong anymore. I was. And the moment Chloe finally thought she had him, that's when everything would fall apart, right in front of them all. The shift in Chloe was almost theatrical. Suddenly, she was dressing a little more polished when she knew Logan might be around. She started name-dropping his interests in front of my parents like they were hers. "Oh, I've always loved modern jazz," she said once, even though she used to mock me for playing it. Logan just smiled politely, like none of it registered. But every look she gave him, every casually scripted touch on his arm, I saw it. And more importantly, she thought I didn't. I kept my distance, just like they expected. Declined invitations, answered texts late, played the part of the wounded but graceful ex. And Chloe? She leaned into it. More flirtation, more boldness, more confidence in the lie she was building. It was wild how quickly she revealed herself when she thought no one was watching. She was so sure she'd won. So sure that I'd just hand over my life without a fight. But I wasn't out. I was just quiet. And there's a difference. The pieces were finally in place. All we needed was one perfect moment, one push that would make her show her cards completely. And we didn't have to wait long. A few days later, Chloe invited Logan to lunch, alone. She called it a friendly catch-up, but we both knew what it really was. She thought this was her big moment. What she didn't know was that mine was coming right after. The morning of the lunch, I barely said a word. I just helped Logan pick out a shirt, kissed him on the cheek, and reminded him of the signal. We'd rehearsed everything. Where I'd be, what angle to stand at, how long to wait before stepping in. The tiny camera tucked into his collar was already rolling before he left the apartment. My heart was pounding, but not with fear this time. This wasn't a risk. This was justice. I got to the cafe early and took my spot across the street, sunglasses on, earbuds in, phone ready. I watched as Chloe walked in like she was stepping onto a movie set, smiling, hair curled, a little too much perfume. She sat down across from him like she belonged there. And the worst part? She really believed she did. She leaned forward, batted her lashes, touched his hand with that fake laugh I'd known since we were kids. It made my stomach twist, but not from jealousy. From pure, stunned disgust. The audio in my ear crackled as Logan greeted her politely, keeping his tone just warm enough to keep her talking. "I'm glad we could do this," she said, voice soft, syrupy. "I feel like we've always had a connection, even when you were with Haley." I swear I stopped breathing. I wasn't even surprised, just floored by how boldly she said it. Chloe wasn't holding back anymore. She thought she'd won, and she was about to learn how wrong she really was. She kept going, like she was confessing some fairy tale romance instead of exposing herself. "I've always known we'd be great together," she said, twirling her straw like she was 16 again. "And honestly, Haley doesn't really get you the way I do." I could hear Logan shift in his seat, but he didn't interrupt. He just let her talk. That's what we needed. Her voice, her words, her own arrogance digging the hole deeper with every sentence. Then came the moment we had both anticipated. Chloe leaned in close and whispered, just loud enough for the mic, "My parents said you're better off with me anyway." And there it was, the family verdict, like I was nothing but the trial run before she swooped in and rewrote the ending. She actually tried to kiss him after that, slowly, confidently, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I clenched my fists, counted to 3, and crossed the street. I walked into that cafe like I was walking onto a stage. And for the first time in my life, Chloe didn't have a script. She froze mid-sip, eyes wide. Logan stood up immediately, stepping aside as if he'd been waiting for this cue. I held up my phone, live feed still running, and smiled. "Hi, Chloe. You might want to see this." Her face dropped when she realized she'd been recorded. Every word, every smug little line. And for once, her charm didn't save her. She tried to laugh it off at first. "Are you serious, Haley? You're spying on me now?" But her voice cracked halfway through. Logan didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He just looked at her like he didn't recognize the person in front of him. And maybe he didn't. Chloe had always worn masks, played sweet when it served her. But now, every mask had slipped. Her desperation was on full display, and it was ugly. Even she looked startled by it. I took a slow breath and looked at her, not with anger, but with clarity. "You always assumed I'd walk away, that I'd back down like I always have, but I didn't." I turned to our parents, who had come rushing in after Chloe texted them in panic. "You taught her that she could take whatever she wanted, and now, she tried to take my life and expected applause." They looked stunned, mouths open, eyes darting between me, Logan, and the phone in my hand. For once, there was no excuse, no spin, just truth. Logan turned to Chloe, calm and firm. "Whatever this was, you've destroyed it, and I don't want anything to do with you. Not now, not ever." She didn't reply. Couldn't. And I didn't need to say anything else. The silence did it for me. It wasn't revenge. It was revelation. A spotlight on the rot they'd all tried to hide. And as I turned and walked out of that cafe, Logan's hand in mine, I felt lighter. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped losing. After everything came out, the silence from my family was deafening. No apologies, no explanations, just radio static and a few awkward texts pretending nothing had happened. My mother sent me a link to a recipe the next morning, as if the last 48 hours hadn't shattered whatever was left between us. Chloe, of course, disappeared, probably licking her wounds somewhere, waiting for the next thing to want. But I didn't chase, not this time. Logan and I spent the weekend doing nothing. Coffee in bed, long walks, no talking unless we felt like it. The peace was new, unfamiliar even. I kept waiting for the guilt to show up, for that familiar ache in my chest, the need to fix, to smooth things over, to be the good daughter. But it never came. I had finally drawn the line, and for once, it stayed there. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about choosing myself in a way I never had before. My dad called once. I let it ring. I didn't need to hear his sighs or his half-hearted defenses. I already knew the script. Chloe didn't mean it that way. Your mother was just trying to help. The same recycled excuses I'd been fed my whole life. I had outgrown them all. There was a strange kind of grief in that, but also relief. Like realizing the door had always been open, and I was just now brave enough to walk through it. Chloe finally texted me. Just 2 words. "You win." That was it. No apology, no reflection, not even a question. Just a bitter surrender wrapped in her usual pride. And I stared at that message longer than I should have, letting the weight of everything settle. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about winning. I didn't want Logan because she did. I wanted him because he loved me, because we built something real. She never understood that, and honestly, I don't think she ever will. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the family group chat, stared at all the photos, all the fake cheer, all the layers of performative love, and I deleted it. Just like that. Gone. No dramatic exit message, no final statement, just silence. It felt like shedding a skin I'd been carrying for decades. Heavy, brittle, suffocating. And as soon as it was gone, I could breathe. For real this time. My heart didn't ache. It expanded. That night, Logan made dinner, his famous roasted chicken, the one that always smells like rosemary and home. We clinked glasses, and he looked at me like I was the strongest person he'd ever known. Maybe I was. Maybe I always had been, and I just needed to stop proving it to people who never cared. I took a long sip of wine, leaned back, and let the quiet fill the space where old pain used to live. The next morning, I woke up before Logan. Sunlight poured through the window, warm and soft, and for the first time in forever, I didn't wake up bracing for impact. No emotional landmines, no walking on eggshells, just peace. I sat on the edge of the bed, looked at my phone, no new messages, and smiled. It was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was mine. My life, finally free of people who confused love with control. Logan stirred, blinked up at me, and said, "What are you smiling at?" I just shook my head, leaned over, and kissed him. "Everything," I said. And I meant it. We didn't need some dramatic new beginning. Just this. Truth, presence, calm. We had already survived the storm. And now we were choosing each other every day. Not because we had to, not because it made someone else jealous, but because it felt right. Safe. Real. Later that evening, we sat on the balcony, 2 glasses in hand, the city buzzing quietly below us. I raised mine and said, "To freedom." He clinked his against mine and nodded. And just like that, I deleted the last piece, the family chat, the fake support, the people who thought they could trade my happiness like currency. As the screen went dark, I felt nothing but light. They tried to steal my love. I kept my dignity and left them with each other.